All right, let's get into this one. Law number 7, get others to do the work for you, but always take the credit. Now, I know what you're thinking. That sounds ruthless, right? Unfair, maybe even a little bit evil. And you know what? You're not entirely wrong. But in the cold, hard world of power, this is a law that's as real as gravity.
I mean, really think about it for a second. Have you ever poured weeks, maybe months of your life into a project, just giving it everything you've got, only to have your boss stand up in a meeting and present it like it was their idea all along? Or maybe you watched a colleague get that big promotion for a concept you came up with. That feeling, that frustration of being made invisible, it's something almost all of us have felt. But here's the harsh truth according to this law. That moment, it wasn't an accident. It wasn't just some bad luck on your part. It was a power move. See, the world doesn't really run on who puts in the most effort. It runs on appearances. And if someone else's name is attached to your hard work, they get the rewards, because in the game of power, credit is the only currency that matters.
And if you want to truly understand just how devastating it can be to ignore this law, we have to talk about one of history's most brilliant minds and also one of its most tragic cautionary tales. We have to talk about Nikola Tesla.
So, what you have here is this incredible clash of two totally different approaches. On one side, you have Tesla, this pure, otherworldly genius. I mean, this was a guy who could build and test entire complex machines in his head. But he was just tragically naive when it came to politics, to promotion, to just basic human nature. And then on the other side, you have Thomas Edison. Now, he wasn't a scientific visionary on Tesla's level, not even close, but he was an absolute master of business, of branding, and most importantly, of taking the credit.
And for Tesla, this wasn't just a one-off thing. It was this heartbreaking pattern that followed him his whole life. It really starts in 1884. Edison dangles this life-changing $50,000 reward in front of Tesla if he can redesign his super inefficient dynamos. So, Tesla, being Tesla, works like a madman and pulls it off. And Edison's response? He just laughs in his face, calls it a bit of American humor. Later, even when Tesla's superior AC system, the one backed by Westinghouse, wins the war of the currents and becomes the standard for the entire planet, he gets manipulated by his financier, the powerful J.P. Morgan, into selling his patents for peanuts. He gave up future royalties that would have been worth billions today. But the final insult? Guglielmo Marconi wins the Nobel Prize for inventing the radio by using technology and patents that were directly lifted from Tesla. Tesla did all the work, other people took all the credit, and he died broke and mostly forgotten.
And this is the brutal lesson of Tesla's life. A brilliant, world-changing idea is completely worthless to your own power if someone else's name is on the box. See, psychologically, people need a simple story. We need a single hero to latch onto. The world doesn't remember the team of brilliant engineers. It remembers the name on the patent. It remembers the brand.
You know, Edison himself was not shy about this at all. Just listen to what he said. "I've stolen a lot myself, but I know how to steal." For him, this wasn't some moral failing. It was his entire business model. He understood that his name, the Edison brand itself, was his greatest invention. He would hire the brightest minds on Earth to do the hard scientific work in his labs so that he could focus on what actually built his empire, getting the patents, controlling the press, and stamping his name on everything that came out the door.
So, Tesla is our cautionary tale. But now, let's flip the script and look at the people who actually mastered this law. Because history is absolutely packed with powerful figures who didn't just get lucky. They built their entire legacies on the work and sometimes on the ruins of other people.
Robert Greene uses this really powerful metaphor of the vulture. Think about it. While all the other animals are out there in the wild hunting, fighting, and burning massive amounts of energy, the vulture, it just waits. It circles patiently, conserving its strength, and then, once all the hard work is done and the kill has been made, it swoops in and takes the prize with almost no effort. In whatever field you're in, you have to learn to spot the vultures. And history gives us a couple of classic examples of how this works. Take the conquistadors Pizarro and Balboa. Balboa spends years on this brutal, dangerous quest for the mythical city of El Dorado. And the whole time, his quiet, unassuming soldier, Pizarro, is just watching, learning, waiting. The second the moment is right, Pizarro makes his move, gets rid of Balboa, and claims all the glory and the gold for himself. Or think about the famous painter Peter Paul Rubens. He basically ran a giant art factory. He had dozens of incredibly talented but anonymous artists who painted huge sections of his famous canvases. But it was his final touch, and more importantly, his signature at the end, that got all the credit and all the incredible wealth.
And what this all really shows us is that applying this law isn't always about, crude, blatant theft. The most sophisticated way to use it is to learn how to build on the knowledge and the work of the past. Isaac Newton famously said he stood on the shoulders of giants. A true master of power does the same thing, but they make sure that when they're standing up there, everyone is looking at them, not at the giant who's holding them up.
Okay, so history is one thing, but what about today? How does this actually show up in our offices, in our own careers? Let's break down the modern playbook for this.
Really, the goal here is strategic efficiency. Your time and your creative energy, those are your most valuable resources. So don't waste them reinventing the wheel. If you can leverage the research, the data, the legwork of other people, you can appear incredibly fast and effective. You build what the book calls a godlike aura, where it looks like you're accomplishing superhuman things when really you're just not doing it all by yourself. The basic idea is simple. Never do for yourself what others can do for you, and then make absolutely certain that your name is the one everybody remembers at the end.
But, and this is a really big but, you have to be careful. Because like all these laws of power, if you just apply this one blindly, it is incredibly dangerous. It can backfire. It can create bitter enemies, breed resentment, and if you're not smart about it, taking all the credit can become a trap that ends up destroying you.
This is where true mastery comes into play. It's not just about knowing the rule, it's having the wisdom to know exactly when you need to break it. Sometimes, the most powerful move you can possibly make is to deliberately share or even just give away the credit.
So when is it smart to let someone else take the credit? Well, there are two key situations. First is when your own position of power is insecure. If you're still trying to climb the ladder, grabbing every bit of credit for yourself makes you an easy target. It creates jealousy, and it makes you look greedy. The second, and this one's a bit more subtle, is when you have a powerful boss or master. A perfect example is Henry Kissinger. He would often let President Nixon take the public credit for his own diplomatic breakthroughs. Why would he do that? Because Kissinger was smart enough to know that his own power depended entirely on Nixon's success and his goodwill. By making his boss look like a genius, Kissinger made himself completely indispensable.
So that leaves us with this final question. I want you to look around at your own life, your job, your projects. Which role are you playing? Are you the brilliant, tireless Nikola Tesla doing all the work but ending up with nothing to show for it? Are you the circling vulture just waiting to swoop in and claim someone else's prize? Or are you the true strategist, the one who understands when to take the credit and, more importantly, when it's smarter to give it away? The choice and, of course, the consequences are all yours.